Hello and welcome to France 2022, The Choice. It is our daily show covering the presidential election. Round one is now behind us, and we have a rematch of 2017, Marine Le Pen against Emmanuel Macron. So let's take a look at the results. Those are the final and official results, 27.8% for Emmanuel Macron, a lead of 4.7% over Marine Le Pen. Third is Jean-Luc Mélenchon. He came very close to making it to the second round, but it's not enough. Far behind the other far-right candidate, Éric Zemmour, with some 7% of the votes. If we look at the other contenders, they're under the 5% threshold. It's an important one because you are not reimbursed your campaign costs if you score lower than 5%. Valérie Pécresse, it's the party of Charles de Gaulle, under 4%. The socialist candidate Anne Hidalgo, under 2%. Those are the two big tent parties, so that's a major, major failure for them. So that's what we have. Marine Le Pen versus Emmanuel Macron once again.
And Marc, Macron, Le Pen and Mélenchon are the only candidates who reached double digits this time around.
Yes, and we're going to take a closer look at where they got their votes from, who voted for them. Sinead McCausland dives deeper into those numbers.
En un grand mouvement politique d'unité et d'action pour notre pays.
As French President Emmanuel Macron pledges to create a united France, analysis from pollsters shows French citizens are split. Votes for France's next president were divided depending on age, background, and region. The incumbent president gained support from large prosperous cities such as Toulouse and Paris, whilst the far-right Marine Le Pen won over rural areas, particularly the post-industrial northeast. Macron came out on top amongst the over 70s with around 38% of the vote. But left-wing Franz-and-Baud leader Jean-Luc Mélenchon and far-right Marine Le Pen were the favourites amongst the under-35s. The younger generation's ballots are crucial for Macron in the next round, but he's so far failed to win them over.
Really, there is this anger amongst young people that does exist. Now it is the great unknown. I think that if Emmanuel Macron creates a campaign to try and win over the younger generation, it actually risks doing the opposite.
Amongst workers, Le Pen received 35% of the blue-collar vote, whilst Macron won over the same percentage amongst managerial employees. Macron, Le Pen and Mélenchon are the only candidates to have received at least 10% of the vote. It confirms the shift that began in French politics and amongst French voters in 2017, this first round of elections facing its highest abstention rate since 2002. Opinion polls suggest the runoff between Macron and Le Pen in the final round could be much closer.
So this Monday, the campaign for round two started in earnest. The two finalists hit the campaign trail while the others had only one thing to do, to lick their wounds. Shirley Sitban has the recap of this Monday.
It's a rematch 5 years on. Marine Le Pen and Emmanuel Macron, who won on the first round, are fighting for every vote. The French president went straight to enemy territory. More than 40% of residents voted for Marine Le Pen here in Denain. This time, Macron and Le Pen's duel is set to be tighter. There is no time to lose.
Ils vivent dans la misère. Monsieur le Président, les Français s'inquiètent, vous le savez. Bien sûr. Vous savez pourquoi ils se ruent vers le Front National, vers le Rassemblement National? Parce qu'ils sont inquiets, parce qu'on n'a pas apporté des réponses.
Il ne faut pas laisser passer le Front National.
Non, mais il faut convaincre tout le monde du projet qu'on a tous ensemble.
Marine Le Pen, who came second on Sunday, wants voters from across the board, just like Emmanuel Macron.
Il ne faut jamais perdre sa persévérance. Quand on sait qu'on a raison, il faut continuer à se battre envers et contre tout.
A day after her biggest score yet, the national rally is hunting for votes beyond its boundaries, far beyond. Jordan Bardella spreads the message.
Si on arrive au pouvoir, c'est pas le Rassemblement national qui va arriver au pouvoir, mais c'est un gouvernement d'union nationale avec des gens de la droite, de la gauche, qui sont attachés à l'idée de nation et qui sont attachés pas seulement à nos modes de vie, mais à notre modèle de protection sociale et qui veulent éviter de déposséder la France de leur souveraineté, ce que fera Emmanuel Macron 50+.
His score was far higher than expected. But that doesn't make Jean-Luc Mélenchon's defeat any easier. On the contrary, he could smell victory. Now he has to choose the lesser evil.
Il ne faut pas donner une seule voix à Madame Le Pen.
But that doesn't mean he's calling to vote for Macron. The far left is preparing a battle in Parliament.
Il s'agira aux élections législatives de faire le nécessaire, parce qu'Emmanuel Macron, je le crois, peut ne pas avoir de majorité à l'Assemblée. Il peut s'agir de lui imposer une cohabitation.
Éric Zemmour did not match Mélenchon's score, but he still wants to be heard, including at Parliament. His goal now, rebuilding the right by uniting all trends from the center to the far right.
Je suis déterminé à poursuivre le combat avec tous ceux qui sont à mes côtés, tous ceux qui nous rejoindront dans les semaines à venir, et je vous dirai très vite la forme que prendra notre action.
Zemmour's result is seen as a crushing defeat, but it's a score Valérie Pécresse would have welcomed. With less than 5%, she has brought the Republican Party to the brink of collapse. And the state won't pay back her campaign costs either, including the €5 million debt she herself contracted.
Je suis endettée personnellement à hauteur de 5 millions d'euros. C'est pour cela que je lance ce matin un appel national aux dons. Il en va de la survie des Républicains et au-delà de la survie de la droite républicaine.
Same story on the left. Yannick Jadot is pleading for donations. The Green candidate, like the Communist, the Socialist candidates, failed to hit the 5% threshold. That is all from the campaign trail. Meet again tomorrow, same time.
So Macron and Le Pen now have less than 2 weeks to attract voters for round two.
Yes, absolutely. Fishing for votes is going to be their main concern since the results on Sunday. There have been some nuances. We've heard some leaders say we need to vote for Macron, but others have not been as clear. Let's take a listen to Jean-Luc Mélenchon and to Christian Jacob, who's the leader of the Conservative Party.
We must not cast a single vote for Marine Le Pen. We must not cast a single vote for Marine Le Pen. We must not cast a single vote for Mrs. Le Pen. There you go. I think I made myself clear.
No vote can be cast for Marine Le Pen. Her political and economic agenda would lead us to chaos.
Seems pretty clear, but actually it's not that clear. Yes, you can say not a single vote for Marine Le Pen, but actually this means three different things. It means either a ballot for Emmanuel Macron, okay, that's one. It means you can vote blank, or it also means you can stay home and abstain. So there's been a lot of criticism saying, you need to be very clear. If you really want to vote against Marine Le Pen, you have to vote for Emmanuel Macron. But obviously, this hasn't happened. And that's why there's still a lot of uncertainty going into the second round 12 days from now.
So let's take a look now at a poll for that runoff vote.
Yes, there are many polls, obviously, and there'll be polls every day, and we'll keep you up to speed with this. That's a poll from IFOP. It shows 52.5% for Emmanuel Macron versus 47.5% for Marine Le Pen. So it's pretty tight, and it's much, much tighter than in 2017. Just a reminder, Emmanuel Macron garnered 66% of the votes versus 34% back in 2017. So obviously, this is a much, much tighter race.
A lot more difficult than this time around for Macron. Marine Le Pen was also back on the road this Monday campaigning ahead of that vote.
Yes, actually, she was on the road. It was not planned, but when she saw that Emmanuel Macron traveled to northern France, she improvised a quick trip to rural France. And going with her, it was our Charles Pellegrin. He followed her in the village of Torigny-sur-Oreuze in Burgundy. Let's take a look at his report.
An improvised addition to Marine Le Pen's campaign agenda after her historic results in the first round of voting yesterday night. Marine Le Pen was supposed to hold meetings in Paris with her campaign team to decide what the best strategy would be for the next 2 weeks before the second round of voting. But instead, she saw Emmanuel Macron, the incumbent president, hit the campaign trail, finally going to the north of France, going to Denain, Marine Le Pen's backyard. And that's when she decided to call up this farmer who lives on this farm in the region of Burgundy, just southwest of Paris, to have a visit here, to talk about him, about his everyday concerns, talk about the rise in food prices that are affecting every French person. Purchasing power, an important part of Marine Le Pen's platform. She wants to reduce VAT from 20% to 5% to help working class families all over the country. Also, she came here to address Emmanuel Macron directly. He's hitting the campaign trail really for the first time today, but she's been doing it for weeks, if not months, trying to get a sense of people's concerns. Also, addressing Emmanuel Macron directly, saying that he's going to the north of France, he's going to the town of Denain to visit and see the people who have been ravaged, who have been devastated by his economic policy. Those were her words this Monday on the campaign trail. Clearly, Marine Le Pen, the National Rally candidate, trying her best to not only get the right-wing, far-right vote, but now as well trying to get those far-left votes, those people who potentially voted for Jean-Luc Mélenchon.
This election was closely watched from around the globe. France, of course, a major player within the EU. NATO has a seat on the UN Security Council.
Yes, and this is why we asked our correspondents in Berlin, in Washington, but also in Abidjan to tell us what they were hearing about this very crucial election here in France.
Here in Berlin, mum's the word when it comes to anybody in power saying anything of note about the French election. However, the Berlin Daily, their Tagesspiegel, says that's simply because no one wants to say anything that will tip the balance in favor of Marine Le Pen, saying her election would amount to a political earthquake in Europe and would forever freeze up the Franco-German motor that drives Europe forward. The center-right newspaper Die Zeit, for its part, says that far-right candidates garnered more votes than did French President Emmanuel Macron, and that Marine Le Pen could still be elected president. That 70 years of peace in Europe were not something to be taken lightly, and that the peace, prosperity, and democracy in Europe were as precious as they were fragile.
Here in Abidjan, the first round of the French presidential election did not cause any particular excitement. We spoke to Ivorians who told us they were not surprised by the outcome. The press is not paying much attention to the election either today, and the same goes for politicians who haven't commented on the upcoming face-off between Emmanuel Macron and Marine Le Pen in the second round of the polls. Now, what has sparked the most reactions, however, especially online, is the French community in Ivory Coast's vote. Macron secured the lead with 39.5% of the vote, followed by Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who's made significant progress since 2017 with 29% of the votes. Now, Éric Zemmour came in third place with an 11% score, which has shocked some Ivorians and French Ivorians.
In Washington, D.C., there is a sense of worry about what a possible Marine Le Pen victory could mean for the Western alliance, given her proximity to Russia and her criticism of NATO. While the White House's official position is that they do not comment on foreign elections before the final result, the Biden administration insists that France is a key ally. Joe Biden and Emmanuel Macron have been in close cooperation over recent months to organize the West's response to Russia. But more broadly, the two leaders have been closely aligned in strengthening the Western alliance, and the U.S. president does see Macron's France as a key partner in what he calls the battle between democracies and autocracies.
Now let's welcome Catherine Nicholson, France 24's Europe editor.
Catherine, before we delve into Europe's role in this very tight presidential campaign, just remind us and our viewers where France fits into the picture.
Exactly. Among those 27 EU member states, France is quite a hefty presence in Europe. So I've prepared a few bullet points that we can show to our viewers as well. France was there right at the start, a founder member of the European Union, the second biggest EU economy today, the second biggest population as well. It has the biggest military in the EU. And since the UK Brexited, France is the EU's only nuclear-armed power. And as you mentioned, Jenna, it is the only permanent member of the UN Security Council from the European Union.
And Kat, if there is one issue on which both are at loggerheads, both candidates, it is Europe. Let's begin with Macron, the self-proclaimed Monsieur Europe.
He is indeed, isn't he? It's a good nickname. Emmanuel Macron makes no secret of how much he believes in the European Union. He wants closer political cooperation with the other EU states. He wants the EU to have more of a combined military presence as well, while staying within NATO. He's already taken the EU into new territory in some ways. For example, he got Angela Merkel on board with joint borrowing on the international financial markets to finance the COVID recovery fund. That means all states are responsible for each other's debts, something that was taboo for the likes of Germany and the Netherlands for many years. Above all, Macron wants the EU to remain in existence and become an ever stronger union. He's telling French voters right now that they're not just voting on the future of France, they are also voting on the future of the European Union. We've got a snippet of his speech from Sunday night where he talks about that.
Je souhaite tendre la main.
I wish to extend my hand to all those who want to work for France. I am ready to invent something new. Because let's make no mistake, nothing is decided, and the debate we will have in the next 15 days is decisive for our country and for Europe. On the 24th of April, we can make the choice for France and Europe together.
Catherine, we just heard from Mr. Europe. What about Mrs. Frexit? Well, that's how Marine Le Pen was nicknamed, if there is a nickname to be found, in 2017. She has changed her position, or has she?
It's a very good question. Does Marine Le Pen still support Frexit? Well, officially, no, not since the 2019 EU elections. That was when her party formally gave up on the idea of a Frexit, saying they recognise that the French don't want to leave the EU anymore. Support for Frexit fell drastically as the Brexit process went on. Her party president, Jordan Bardella, was speaking earlier on, and he talked about this particular question.
She's evolved. You're not the same on your third election bid as you are on your first. But I think our plan now is socially fair, judicially serious and practical, and politically concrete. She's evolved on certain topics because we found better ways to serve French people. Our approach to the European Union isn't perhaps the same as it was 5 years ago, when we had a stark and confrontational approach. Now that the global context has changed and society has changed since 2017, we have to take into account realities in France.
So that was Jordan Bardella from the National Rally Party speaking to France 24 earlier on, as you saw there. He said that they used to have a stark and confrontational approach, but I think if you asked various figures in the EU, pro-EU figures, they would find the approach today still pretty confrontational. Some specifics: Marine Le Pen wants France's budget contributions into the European Union to be slashed. She insists that French laws should have primacy over EU laws. She wants to start doing customs checks on goods coming into France, even from other EU members. And the EU is France's biggest trading partner, both for imports and exports. All of this, really challenges the fundamental principles and values that the EU is built on, as a trading union and as a values union as well. Ultimately, Marine Le Pen says that she wants to replace the EU with a so-called Europe of nations. But what this exactly means hasn't been spelled out just yet. I imagine that Emmanuel Macron will press her on that over the next 2 weeks. most EU leaders and EU institutional leaders are actually refraining from commenting on the French election. They tend to do this. They say it's a domestic affair. However, we have had comment from Luxembourg's foreign minister, Jean Asselborn, making it pretty clear how he feels. Take a listen.
I hope that it will end in such a way that we don't have Le Pen as a French president in the European Union. Because that would not only be an upheaval in Europe as a project of values, a peace project, but it would also take us totally off track, I believe, of the essence of the European Union.
There we go, Jean Asselborn, Luxembourg's foreign minister, saying there very clearly he doesn't want to see Marine Le Pen in the Elysée, but of course it's not up to him, it's up to the French voters.
Indeed, thank you so much for that, Catherine. A reminder to our viewers that this coming runoff is a rerun of the 2017 election.
Yes, and that's the time to take a look back at what happened 5 years ago. Peter O'Brien has the story.
Industrial France was seen to be draining down the plug hole, and Whirlpool was a fitting symbol. 5 years ago, a factory belonging to the American appliance maker in the northern city of Amiens was on the brink of closing down, and it became the arena for a crucial joust between runoff candidates Marine Le Pen and Emmanuel Macron.
Madame Le Pen, elle fait, elle, de l'utilisation politique, puisqu'elle va haranguer des militants politiques sur un parking.
While Macron met with union representatives in town, Le Pen upstaged him by heading straight to the factory, where she received a warm welcome.
Ça fermera pas, parce qu'on va trouver, on va mettre tout en place les moyens, on va mettre en place tous les moyens pour que ça ne ferme pas.
Not to be outdone, Macron headed to the site 2 hours later and spent the afternoon being put through the ringer by protesters. It was the first major attack and riposte of the 2017 runoff. The second came with the televised debate. And this time, Le Pen fell on her sword.
On sort ou pas de l'euro?
Il faut retrouver
On revient au franc ou pas?
Il faut retrouver notre monnaie nationale.
Donc on revient au franc?
C'est essentiel.
D'accord.
Essentiel.
Donc
Essentiel.
on revient au franc. Donc vous proposez bien de sortir de l'euro?
Non, je veux renégocier pour que l'euro, on s'en libère et on le transforme en monnaie commune.
Le Pen has since admitted that this debate was a failure and she was too aggressive. It's considered the decisive victory in Macron's 2017 campaign. This time, Le Pen will reportedly suspend public appearances for 3 days before the debate to prepare for it.
And finally, Mark, this isn't the first time that there's a rematch in the French presidential elections.
That's true. There's only one precedent. In 1974, Valéry Giscard d'Estaing, centre-right candidate, ran against a socialist candidate, François Mitterrand. Giscard d'Estaing won in 1974. He was confident he would be re-elected in 1981. The polls were quite favorable. However, François Mitterrand managed to pull off an upset, and he was elected with a razor-thin margin. Obviously, we've heard Marine Le Pen, her lieutenant, saying that she's hoping to do the same. And Emmanuel Macron, hopefully, for him, wants to make history, because if he is re-elected, he would be the first president with a sitting majority to be re-elected. The verdict will be delivered on April 24th by the French voters. And that's it for today.
Thank you so much, Mark.